since my English is not my mother tongue, I will read. And after my anxiety will go down, I will talk. Okay, so I'm really delighted to be here and to present you my rating tools. It was developed with the collaboration of Rafi Ishai. He's a clinical psychologist, and Narkis Levy, she's an art therapist. So it all began in an art-based assessment of a single drawing that was developed in West Virginia by Dr. Linda Gant and Carmelo Tabon. The two worked as an art therapist with hospitalized patients and searched after a single drawing that may serve as a screening method to see the emotional states of the patients, and also to see whether there is a progression after treatment. So Linda thought of the directive to draw a person picking an apple from a tree, in short, the PPAT. Linda and Carmelo developed a rating system measuring the formal art elements, the fits in short. This is an example. The fits measure the form level of the drawing. For example, the amount of colors in the drawing, the line quality, and the space used, and more. They have 14 Likert scale. And they thought, wait a minute, sorry. Each formal element was described in a Likert scale, ranging between 0 to 5. And as you can see here, the example of space use scale, it ranged between 25% to 100% of occupying the paper. The rationale was that symptoms might be reflected in the drawing mainly in terms of the form. So as regard to depression, we would expect that a patient with depression will draw something really small in size and without many colors. And so research really find correlations between the formal elements of the drawing and the symptoms of the patients. Okay. But we thought, I told you all this that only to say that their tool inspired us to develop our tool. And from our clinical experience, we thought and we saw that the PPAT content also communicate a wide range of mental experience and subjective experience. And we really wanted to develop a tool that will capture it. I want you all to look at this drawing of a PPAT of a patient, a client. He's a boy aged 9 years old. Also, I would like that you will keep, like you said, the information here in the room. I just want you to take a look at this, and you can write down notes about what you see, questions that or association, and maybe after the presentation at the end we will go back to this drawing. Okay? Is it clear? Okay. Okay. So two main rationales guided us in developing our rating system. The first is object relations and attachment. The interrelations between the drawn object in the PPAT, the tree, the person, and the apple, may communicate implicit working models of self, others, and the relationships between self and others. Also, we thought about recent studies in Switzerland by Fivas. Her study group found that babies as early at the age of 2 months has a triangular representation of relationship. I think you all know the still face in the experiment. So if you put the mother in front of the baby with a still face, the child, after trying to wake her up, he will turn away to the father, like to cooperate with him. So the second rationale is a phenomenological perspective. Oh, sorry. Before that, in terms of object relation perspective, we looked about the tree features, how strong is the tree and how much fruits on it. We looked about the person characters like success in reaching the apple and also activity levels. And we also looked at the tree-person relationships. And we saw that in some pictures, the tree actually helps the child or the person to pick the apple from it. Okay, so we developed a Likert scale as well, as Linda and Carmelo, and they range between 0 to 5 or 6. And this one measures the apple amounts on the tree, from 0, no tree at all, to 1, a tree with no apples, to 6, a tree with more than 10 apples. We have high inter-rater reliabilities, and it is a good sign that our tool is reliable and we can gain empirical data from it. We also conducted exploratory factor analysis, and we found the 3 factors that I mentioned before. Tree potency, the strength of the tree and the amount of apples, person agency in terms of activity in the picking process and the success in reaching the apple, and also the degree of touch between the person and the tree. This one is high agency, and low, like passive figure. And the third factor is the tree accessibility, is the degree in which the tree really helps the person to reach the apple, for example, by bending the trunk or tree top toward the person. Or you can see it in the famous book of the Giving Tree. Or the other way around, the tree makes it harder to reach them, like this one. Okay, so in preschool children, there are only 2 factors, main factors. We saw that the younger children, they really integrate the 2 factors of the tree. Like a strong parent and a giving parent, it goes to a holistic perspective or perception. Okay, so we conducted until now 3 validity studies. The first 2 in Israel, and the third was conducted in Crete with a collaboration with Crete University. So I'll present here only in a nutshell our findings. The first one in Israel, in a kindergarten, children in the ages of 5 to 6.5. And we found that there are associations between problems in cognitive or executive function and the children's tendency to draw the person as passive, like this, and the tree is bending or going to the other side of the person. So it means that cognitive abilities also impact or affect the child drawing. It may also tell us something about emotional experience, like children with learning disabilities or LD tend to experience themselves as with low potency, and sometimes the other as rejecting or not helping as much as they need. In terms of the main factors, the more the drawn person was agent in the PPAT, the higher self-potency was reported by girls. So we also found gender differences in the drawings, so it's really important. Okay. We also asked the children to tell a story about what they did, and we also found some interesting results. The N is 65 children, We found a significant association between self-potency, as was measured by the camp. It's an interview that we did individually to each child, and describing eating the apple in the verbal story. So preschool children with higher self-potency actualize the apple in the end of their verbal story, showing in a concrete way their own benefits for their own efforts. So this is really interesting. And it really gives us also a potential to research what children draw, and then ask for their intentions and to see the gaps and to learn something about their developmental achievement. Also, gender differences that I mentioned before, aggressiveness among girls was correlated with stronger trees. However, aggression in boys was correlated with a tree with less apples on it. So it may show us that socialization or our reaction as adults to the children may have an impact on their subjective experience. A girl that is aggressive, or she may be seen as assertive, as like stronger, but a boy, he will tend to experience himself as not a good boy, not productive, not okay. Okay. So, and in a collaborative research with the University of Crete, we collected about 700 PPAT of school children. We are now in the phase of analysis and found that in inclusion classes, the children reflect their relational characteristic with parents and teachers. When the child describes her or his teacher as rejecting or as aggressive toward her or him, the person's agency in the drawing is lower, and the tree accessibility is lower as well. So, and this is really interesting. It may help us to understand something about these children's experience and to address it in treatment if necessary. In the adult research, we try to validate our tool with attachment questionnaire from Brennan. It is a self-report questionnaire. And in our adult sample, we have 215 individuals. We found that PPATs of secure individuals show the most coherent script with positive association between the three main factors, thus illustrating coherent relationship between the person and the tree and the apple. For example, as much as the person is agent, as you can see here, he's active, he's touching the tree, and he's reaching the goal. So as much as the person is agent, the tree is more accessible. It is not a so high tree. It is like something low that I can reach it and grab the apple. And potent, it is a strong tree. Our finding coheres with findings in adult attachment research showing that secure individuals' narrative in the AI adult attachment interview characterized with coherency versus insecure narratives that characterizes with incoherency. And respectively, in PPATs of insecure individuals, no non-coherent aspects were detected, and as you can see here in this PPAT, although the person is active, he's really trying to climb the tree, he put many efforts to reach the goal, the tree is not accessible, and also the size of the apple is not fit or adaptable for the person. So this might reflect us some subjective experience in collaborating versus strained and non-collaborative script, that some of them are really inside of us as a mental representations. We also composed two innovative scales that measure the narrative of the drawing, and and we need for it a more holistic view of the drawing. The first one is the focus degree of the picking an apple theme, and I will focus now on it. And the second is the sequence. It's the points in time that is seen in relation to the picking process. We got also a high interrelator reliabilities. We measure it by the ICC. The focus narrative, it measures also the amount of details in the drawing, but in terms of the narrative. Some of the children or the adults will draw a person picking an apple from a tree theme only, and this is the main focus of the drawing, like this one. But some will pick up this opportunity to draw something and to draw some other theme, like here, the snake is coming toward the person, and it is really grabbing our attention away from the picking process or away from the picking theme, and like grabbing our attention as a clinician. It happens to us a lot that we ask some question, and then the patient or the client says something that really go to other areas. And so we called it rival narratives in the drawing. And I think it can be a useful tool also for the clinic. We conducted a qualitative research with the collaboration of PRIT. I forgot this. I believe that you all know this book. It's a rival narrative. Okay. So we collected 20 PPAT drawings of children with high aggressiveness and 20 PPAT of children low on aggressiveness, and found more rival themes in the PPAT of the children with high aggressiveness versus the other group. This finding may illuminate their subjective experience, accompanying with aggressive fantasies, death, anxiety, and more. For example, in this PPAT, what catches our attention is the wish to cut down the tree. The person is really short, as you can see here, as relating to the tree, and although he has this little saw, he wishes he had a bigger one. So this is one example. In our preschool sample, we found an association between rival narratives in the drawing and in the verbal stories as well. This could imply that emotional flooding will be seen in verbal and behavioral means as well. And I will read it. This is the drawing of a child, and this is his story. This is a monster that took a lemon. It was stuck in her throat. She fell down. She was disgusted and frightened. So this is the story the child tells us, and it could really illuminate the fantasies, his fears, and his concerns, even though I asked him something very, very focused to do. It can also hint about children's experience in school. At school, when they get school tasks that are very narrowed or focused, and what happened when they are flooded. So, to recap, the advantages of our tool, the SC PPAT and the NA PPAT, is it enables comparing groups, clinical versus normative, and groups from different culture. We also collected drawings from Nepal, and we saw interesting things before and after treatment. It enables to explore developmental issues, for example, the relations between verbal narrative and visual narrative, and also to detect something like in terms of main factors that really go into a differentiation from 2 factors to 3 in school-age children and adults. And it illuminates the subjective experience of individuals, including implicit aspects. I had here another example that after splitting the adult sample into gender group, it enabled a discovery that the higher the anxiety dimension among women and not in men, we had 130 women, the more the narrative tended to be significantly more elaborated, the more anxiety the woman felt, the more elaborated and with rival narratives. So maybe it says something about our ability to communicate the stress and the anxiety versus men. Until now we composed 3 manuals. You can see here, although it is not the final book, but you can, I can show you. And also, the availability of the SC-PPAT and the FITS rating scale enables to analyze the relation between form and content. And as art therapists, this issue is really important. For example, we found that in the avoidant attachment group, as much as the organization in the drawing, which means the form increases, the person's self-agency declines. So this might be related to defense strategies that has a price that we pay sometimes in terms of potency. Future research is needed to explore this aspect. And finally, clinical speaking, the clinician familiarity with our rating system might help in observing and detecting client subjective experience as rival narratives that communicate something that may interfere with the task fulfillment. For example, the presence of a rival narrative may communicate emotional distress or unresolved trauma. This is a PPAT of a child 6 years old that his parents got divorced 2 months before, and it was a really stressful divorce. And after he started to draw the tree, that like it's really a giving tree, that because this is the apple, reach the apple, give the apple by a branch, and I said to myself, wow, I was really happy. But then he added this, a tiger, and he said, now the tiger is attacking the person, and now he's attacking also the apple, and now both are bleeding. So I think that, and it was only in one single art-based assessment that showed us his flooding, his anxiety, and his trauma that need to be digested. We also recommend to notice gaps between main factors in PPAT drawings as communicating strained alliances in the client's world. For example, the person seems active, reaching the hand up, and also she has an apple in her hand. But the tree is wounded, and also he has only one apple. So these gaps also may communicate something about the client inner world. And lastly, the simple theme of drawing invites playing with the final product by asking the child to tell a story about the drawing, by asking questions about the time dimensions, like tell me or show me what happened after the apple was picked. This secure exploration in the clinical setting may show us what happened after, may show us some of the inner themes that are in concern, and they really, as part of our endeavor to deepen our understanding in therapy. So we have 2 minutes to go back to the drawing, to the first 2 minutes. I'll go back, and I wish to hear your comments after integrating. Okay, this one.
Could you just repeat the task and the wording that you use one more time?
Yeah, please draw a person picking an apple from a tree. That's it. So if you want to say something, or maybe now you can see something that you didn't see before.
Obviously, there's somebody falling down the ladder, and it's not really clear whether the same person is getting up or down, or whether there are more than one.
Yeah. And he said that it is the same person, that he reached, but then he fell and died. This is the thing, that the story that he said. The apples.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they are hollow also. So that's it. Thank you.